Good evening. I'm Renee Powell, and welcome to Toolbox Tuesday. I'm with Oklahoma Family Network, and we are so very fortunate to have Jessicca Yeager, founder of Primal K9 Balanced Dog Training and Primal People, based out of Bartlesville, Oklahoma, which is in the northeastern part of the state. And I'm super excited because, I live. It's a community in which me and our family lives. So Jessica is a service dog trainer, advocate, and educator who works closely helping folks navigate disability, independence, and life alongside a service dog. We're going to be discussing some of her personal experiences, the creation of Primal Canines, some, some discussion around the ADA service dog laws, the process of obtaining and training a service dog, and kind of how she and her organization assist others in navigating this journey of finding and training service dogs. So thank you so much, Jessica, for being here. I can't say that enough. Are you all right if we get started?
Absolutely.
Okay, uh, to begin with, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how service dogs became a part of your life?
Well, I had been training dogs for 5 years just by chance. I
Hmm.
was going to college for human psychology, and in the process, I found dog psychology to be a little bit more interesting. They can't talk to us, so it was a little more intensive. And along that process, I've had a couple of people reach out to me and ask about service dogs. And the ADA website now is not what it used to be. Uh, Back then, it was a lot of phone calls because it was really difficult to navigate their website. And I saw how difficult it was just to simply get information. And that really that's where it all started because I saw a need in the community and then the need for just the education out there. I mean, there was no real access to it.
Wow, I really thank you. So I guess I'll ask, do you yourself have a service dog?
Yes,
Or
I do. I got my service dog actually a couple of years after training for other people. You get what's kind of called oh,
foster fail?
I forget. No,
What?
I forget what it's
Oh,
called, but
that's okay.
like imposter syndrome.
Oh, got
You
you.
feel like yeah, like you feel like you shouldn't have one, like you're normal enough and you can figure it out on your own and it's just another obstacle. But I mean, it really has been life-changing to have Sprout.
Oh, Sprout. What kind of dog is Sprout? Do you mind me asking?
Yeah, Sprout is a rough collie and she's 3 years old, so she's a lassie, is what she looks like.
Oh, okay. Cool. So, um, you know, um, what's what is your experience like with Sprout, or I don't know if you've had another service dog, and how did that partnership change your daily life?
Well, Sprout's the only one that I've had thus far.
Okay.
She has really, I wasn't even sure that that's what I was going to use her for when I initially got her. But sh I mean, she really showed me what partnership is, what a whole relationship is, the ins and outs of everything in a positive way and in a negative way. Because when I go out in the community, there are a lot of people that don't know how to behave around a service dog. And it's more the adults and the children. They just aren't used to seeing them around. So they'll want to ask you a lot of questions. They may read the vest and say, well, I see it says don't talk to them, but I'm going to talk to them anyway. And they just don't know. And you have to take that as also an educational moment right there to teach them.
Um, we can always learn more. What tasks or supports made the most significant difference for you personally in your life? How Sprout has helped you?
The grounding techniques for sure. So I'm a lot
Mm,
less jittery. I
mm,
don't disassociate as often.
mm.
She is able to pick up on my physical cues to show that
Mm.
I am very anxious or
Oh,
stressed.
how
And
cool. How
she'll make
cool.
me sit there and pet her. She'll do deep pressure therapy and make me grounded again, which is really helpful. And really, the other thing is I'll forget to eat. So
Mm.
she knows what time, 3 times a day that I'm supposed to eat, and she'll remind me, hey, it's time, which is
Oh,
great.
my dog has this on a schedule too, food wise. She's not a
Yeah.
service dog. She likes her food. And I guess so far, like, what's been the most rewarding part of having a service dog? And if you can't, I mean, that's sort of
Honestly, I mean, the ability to educate others. I know
okay.
it can be overwhelming sometimes, but because of the amount of people that have come to me, I've just on the fly in 5, 10 minutes at the grocery store, I'm able to tell somebody how they're able to access their own or what the laws are really quickly. I mean, that
Nice.
really has been nice because otherwise I just look like somebody else and they wouldn't know to ask me.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, what you have is you have a very effective mode of communicating the law and the etiquette, and down to 5 to 10 minutes. Wow, that would be a challenge for me. So we talked about, probably the most rewarding part of having a service dog. To counter that, what's been, one of the more challenging parts of having a service dog, if there have been any? I mean,
Access issues and then
okay.
people just not knowing etiquette. Those are the two things. Because the
Mhm.
law is just not out there for people to understand. Etiquette is not out there for people to understand, and they don't
Mhm.
know where to gain that information at. If you give it a quick Google search, you come up with some fraudulent sites, and it just is really confusing for people. That's the biggest part right there. So it
Mhm.
works hand in hand where both you get to educate people, but at the same point, people stare at you, they whistle at your dog, they want to stop and ask you every question in the world when you're having a bad time. And those are some things that handlers or people that are potentially going to become handlers and interested in having their own service dog should be aware of. And that's why a lot of people have quit my programs is they just can't handle the stress of constantly having to interact with the public because they just don't know. They don't know where to gain access to the information.
Wow. That's just heartbreaking. So how has your experience, your personal experience, shaped your understanding of disability in general and independence?
Anybody at any point in time can become disabled.
Yeah.
All right, that's the main thing right there. And a lot of us want to deny our disability. Even when our dog is alerting us, we'll ignore our dog because we think, oh, I'm fine, I can mask it, it's okay, there's nothing going on. But anybody at any point in time can become disabled. That's the biggest key right there.
Got you. Got you. Yeah, you were 100% right. So was there a moment when you realized how powerful a human service dog bond could be?
Yeah, one moment in particular comes to mind. A service dog, a diabetic alert dog that I trained for somebody actually saved his life. We
Wow.
went to the Christmas parade together, and I know that he had taken his glucose tablets, and then we went home. I drove him home, and that evening he ended up having to call the ambulance. And if it wasn't for his dog barking incessantly in the downstairs sunroom while he was upstairs, I
Wow.
mean, he would have gone into a diabetic coma
Mm,
or worse.
mm.
Luckily, his dog was able to bark so much that it woke him up and he checked his sugar. And sure enough, yeah, they had to call an ambulance out there.
Oh
That
my
right
goodness.
there, I mean, being so far away from his handler and he still knew,
Mm.
that's
Wow. Wow.
incredible.
That is telling. That's huge. I mean, saving lives. I mean, I don't know if many people think about that when they think service
Hmm.
dog. They think just someone with a dog that helps them with something, but like your life can be dependent. Your dog,
Absolutely.
and that's something that I'm only learning at this point. So I, as far as what personal experience with service dogs inspired you to start Primal K9s and then later Primal People?
It really was those people coming to me when I was
Okay.
just doing basic dog
Mm.
training
Yeah.
that were asking questions, and I saw that there was no access to the knowledge. And
Gotcha.
there is a great amount of people in our community, from blue collar working to those that have served in the military or even ex-first responders in our area. I mean, th those are really big and popular in our area. And
Yeah.
those people become disabled really quickly, and they may have that imposter syndrome as well, where they don't
Mm,
recognize that need and they don't get that help, or there's no
mm,
access to that help. And there's
mm.
no service dog trainer or temperament testing in our area. So again, I mean, that knowledge is just lost out there in the wind.
Okay, wow. So how has Primal Canines grown or evolved since it's your founding of it?
Well, we started quite humbly
Okay.
and small, but through that, we have built just a huge relationship with the community, and
Oh,
we do more than just the dog training. I've shown up to help people whose dogs have ingested chocolate pie at 11 o'clock at night, or uh, my husband does the reptiles and will care for them, or we may board dogs. And they come to us for all different kinds of knowledge, not just the service dog training
gotcha.
or dog training in general.
Okay.
So they've really trusted us, and it's become a partnership.
Wow. That okay. No, I know speaking of partnership, this is not in the questions, but every year Oklahoma Family Network hosts a family professional partnership conference, and the main one's in OKC, but we have satellite sites, and Tulsa is a satellite site. And I it since you have experience, the whole goal of that is to create partnership, and
Mhm.
I'd be happy, it's free for families or people or with health differences to attend. And if you'd be interested, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people from Tulsa, but I try to invite people from Bartlesville, but that's the location that I'll be at. So you're totally welcome, and I think it'd be awesome if you could make it. But obviously, I just when you said partnership, like that's what it's about. It's
Yeah,
all
you
about
can't do it without everybody
yes.
else. Everybody has to work together. You can't do
Yes.
it alone. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes. So here's something that I kind of been wondering. What does the name Primal Canines, represent to you? Or how did you come up with it or decide on that name for your organization?
We wanted something that meant foundation or fundamental, just right there in the beginning, right where you start at. So without that foundation, those fundamental elements
Mhm.
to build off of, I mean, you go nowhere. And that's really where you want to focus at is just right there, the foundation. I think about a house. Without that foundation, the rest of it would crumble. And that's where you want to start.
Gotcha, gotcha. So if someone comes to you looking for like a service dog, um, can you kind of walk us through what that journey typically looks like?
Yeah, that can look like a few different things. A lot of times people already have their own dog. And right there, right off the bat, the first thing that we always want to do is temperament testing.
Mhm.
That's going to run through essentially the five senses. And we're gonna make the dog uncomfortable within those five senses. So how do they respond to loud noises? What's their discomfort like? And we want to test those types of things alongside that drive or that specific interest that dog has for that person's specific disability needs.
Mhm.
That's the very first step right there. Alternatively, some people will go ahead and fill out an application, a service dog application with me, and I will travel up to 3 hours away and go and find those dogs for them. I go and test them myself. I make sure that they hit all the cues and bring them right back.
So I know that you do a lot of community service. Is there a fee for like what I mean, if you're driving 3 hours to find a dog, I mean, do you? I'm sure you have a fee schedule. Um,
I just charge flat out $200 for finding the dog and testing it. That's it.
oh,
And if I drive out there, and this has happened, I drove out 2.5 hours away and the dog failed, I don't charge you for that. You just get charged the $200 for the dog. And
okay.
in most cases, that dog is going to be co-owned with me. So if that person has significant health issues, or we're not sure if it's going to work out, whatever that the situation may be, then they're in that co-ownership program so that I can take the dog back if it were to run away or if that person were to unfortunately pass away,
Oh,
I can have that dog back.
okay. I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted.
Okay, okay.
But you were on you said you'll travel to find a dog. You got to do
Mhm.
temperament testing. What happens next?
Uh, Basic obedience. We
Okay,
run
all
through some
right.
basic obedience, and then we work through public access training. And then finally, they're tasking if we haven't already tied that in. It kind of depends person to person where we want to tie that in. It depends on what task the dog is going to be
Okay,
doing and what that person's able to handle all at one time.
okay. Task. Sorry. So we actually had a question from the chat, and if you're
Hmm.
all right, Jessica, is it okay if I pose that to you?
Sure.
Um, okay, so one of our guests asked, 3 hours away, does that mean that the person needs to live within 3 hours of you as well to access your services? Um, no,
Um,
no, 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 no.
I'm going to say
And
most of the time the people live within an hour or so of me, and I'm trying to make it so I can do something virtual like this with somebody, but it's really difficult to train a dog without being hands-on. And if I have to drive 3 hours one way, because training is basically once a week. If I have to drive 3 hours one way and then 3 hours back, that may take me away from somebody else that may need me during that time. The schedule can get kind of jammed up. So that it's really dependent on what we're able to work out person to person.
okay. Um, and Leah, do you feel like that did that answer your question? Sorry, I don't like calling people out, but okay,
Yes, yeah, it did.
okay,
We're in
okay.
Southwest Oklahoma, and we
Okay.
have a large military population in Southwest Oklahoma, but no resources whatsoever.
Mm,
And so I was just wondering, because I also work with Social Security, so we have a lot of disabled people that are interested in a service dog, but they have no way of, I mean, they've looked online and it's like $15,000 and they're on Social Security, and so
huh,
there's no way for them to get any kind of service dog here.
Yeah, it definitely is really challenging, and there can be a really long wait list, even if they do pay for the dog. So I completely understand that. But without being hands-on with somebody, it can be quite difficult. That's the real catch right there. I wish to be able to expand through the whole state and so on, but at one person right now, it is difficult.
that just really speaks. Wow. There's another question in the chat, and
Sure.
it's from Brandy. She said she wants to know how much it might cost to do the training for a service dog, like from start to finish. And honestly, I'm piggybacking on that. What's the time, like how long is generally the training duration of the training period? Um,
Typically, it's 2 to 3 years long.
okay.
There are some dogs that have made it through in less time, but these people have been very intense with their dogs,
Mm,
and I've noticed it to be labs. Although I don't consider labs to be the smartest dogs, they are people pleasers for sure, which is a really big deal. They want to please their person. They want to do everything they possibly can for you. So some of those dogs have finished in less than a year.
okay.
But typically it's 2 to 3 years long. It also depends on what your needs are as well. Medical dogs are going to take longer than a psychiatric alert dog for scent detection and so on. And
Um,
then the cost
mhm.
that may vary. So I do a sliding scale myself. I've never met another trainer that does that. Working with people that are disabled can bring a variety of challenges, and this is more advanced training and somebody's life may be on the line. So I do a sliding scale from $35 for those that are on Social Security. Those are going to be $35. Those that receive SNAP benefits, those are going to be $50 for hours per hour session. And then people that are full time able to work, that's $75. That's my normal rate.
Okay.
And each time that we meet up over the span of 2 years, I'm going to say that could be as low for most people that are going to be on disability. That could be as low as $4,000, and you just pay as you go each time that you need it. Or it could be as expensive as $8,000 for a 3 year span, somebody that may be paying full price. Or if I fully train the dog for you and we have to meet up, I mean, that could be closer to that $15,000 mark as I'm doing all of the training. And then that person would come and train with me. And then we'd kind of move that partnership over to them together.
Wow. Um, Brandy just shared something in the chat, and Brandy, I can read it aloud if you're okay, but you know, I don't want to say, I don't want to, I'm sure everyone can read it, but okay, thank you. I appreciate you giving me permission to share. She says that her daughter is autistic and has an intellectual disability, and she elopes and then goes into fight or flight mode. And last night she went missing for 3.5 hours, and I don't even know how I would handle something like that. So, what as far as like what type of how might a service dog assist someone with because when people when they're runners um
Yeah.
you know I'm not how can a dog help the person to maybe not quite get in that, like, I guess you were saying grounding, is that how you do it?
Yep. So grounding techniques are really good. Most of the time for children with autism, we want to use a Newfoundland. That would be my choice right there, would be a Newfoundland because they aren't as I don't know, they aren't so worried about the awkward social cues that somebody might give. They're a lot more accepting. They're pretty neutral in that sense there. So they may help with those grounding techniques.
Okay.
Whatever that specific individual needs, tasking is very individual. It's not something that we use very often, but some dogs can be trained, which is again why a larger dog can be trained to just sit there and not allow the child to run away. And
Hmm.
they're kind of stuck
Okay.
with that dog. And then
Cool.
another option would be to redirect the child.
Hmm.
That dog, when that person exhibits this certain behavior, the dog is trained to do something else instead. So
Hmm.
walk back to the house if they feel like they need to run, or they may have a certain hormone secrete through their sweat,
Hmm.
and the dog smells it. Then that dog, oh, let's go home. We're going home. No matter what you want, we're going home, and be trained that way. It can be quite difficult to get a dog trained that way and make sure that it's reliable. So it is very dependent on each individual person. It is important to know that just because somebody qualifies for a service dog does not always mean that they benefit from one.
Hmm. Um, so can you give us some examples of people that might qualify and maybe not benefiting? I mean, I realize like everybody's different and we're all individuals, but I didn't know if you could just give us a couple examples, just because I'm curious.
So we'll say that child, if
Okay.
they are not able to handle a dog effectively, okay, so doing the training with the dog on their own, then they're not going to benefit. They're totally responsible for what essentially is a weapon. A dog has teeth. They're responsible for that dog pulling them into the road and so on. That may not benefit that child at all. Or if they're particularly sensitive to confrontation in public, it can cause them to be more stressed. I do have scopophobia, so I am really worried about people judging what I'm doing all the time and staring at me. So even going to the grocery store and somebody says, oh, look, she has a service dog, you leave the service dog alone. Well, now I know that they're watching me. And it can feel quite daunting. So that may not benefit somebody the same way that it could benefit somebody else that's a little bit more confident in those situations.
So um like what qualities do you look for in a dog that, will succeed in service work?
We don't, I mean, the main thing, we don't want a dog that's fearful. We don't want you to be
Okay.
afraid of anything. And that's the main thing that we do see in dogs these days is they haven't had enough exposure. So
Yeah.
they are afraid of something, even storms. If they're not able to pay attention and overcome that fear, and focus on doing their task when there's a storm, they're not going to be qualified. So we look for a dog that's pretty much in the middle, neutral to completely everything. So when we do that temperament testing, if they're too afraid to come over to the umbrella that's popped,
Mm.
that's not going to work out. Some things are trainable, like if they're not really interested in me holding onto their foot for 10 seconds, well, that may be trainable if they're treat motivated. And that's a really big one too. You have to have treat motivation, or it's going to take up to 3 times longer to train that dog. And depending on the breed, you may not have that much time. If it already takes 3 years and then another 3 years and so on, it that may not benefit somebody at all. But we look for a neutral temperament is what we're
Okay.
looking for.
Okay. A neutral temperament.
Mhm.
Um, like what you had mentioned, the commitment. What commitment should a handler expect? I think you might have already answered it, but would you mind just, you know, I mean, I realize, do they go with you and train the dog and you're like alongside them, or um,
It is best, and most often people are going to be handler training with trainer assistants. So the
okay,
dog stays with them, lives with them. I come for an hour. I show the dog how to do new things. I pass it off to the individual, and I coach them from the sidelines, and I give them homework to work on during that
okay,
period.
okay.
So that's the main thing right there, which is a lot of work.
Mhm.
And it's not just the training that people have to pay attention to, it's the lifelong training. Or it's funny because people will ask us, is your dog in training? Well, forever, forever they are, because we could come up to a new circumstance at any point in time. Uh, our dogs are like 2 or 3 year olds,
Mhm.
okay? And all 2 and 3 year olds want to do is try your patience. And they'll try to get away with anything they can. And so doesn't a dog. And you have to constantly correct it.
Mhm.
No, we're not going to get the piece of food off the floor. That's okay. And months down the line, they just try it. And alongside that, you're a part of a community.
Mhm.
So you're responsible for the face of all service dog handlers. And it can
Mhm.
put a bad taste in
Mhm.
somebody's mouth, a business owner's mouth, or something else, where they assume all service dogs are going to be fake and misbehave.
Mhm.
You're responsible for everything with them, every step of the way, and them with you. So think about taking your dog to the bathroom in a public place and they're looking under the stall. Well, you have to stop going to the bathroom and correct your dog in that moment and use that bathroom time as a training moment. So it is a really heavy commitment. It is like a child coming with you everywhere.
Okay. What are some of the most common challenges that handlers face during training?
It's going to be the access issues
Okay, got you,
and
got you.
the
Okay.
being interrupted in public, the
Yeah.
confrontation.
So, there's a lot of confusion around service dog laws. Can you explain the basics of the ADA as it relates to service dogs?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
kind of like what legally defines a service dog under the ADA. Are they required to be like registered or certified? Something to that effect.
so
Um,
a service dog is going to be a dog that is controllable in all public places. So that includes house trained, no barking, misbehaving away from their handler, and that is task trained. So they're trained with a task that mitigates that specific person's disability. There is no certification and no
okay.
registration, but there are regulations
Oh,
federally
mm,
for the service dogs to adhere to.
okay.
If so, for businesses, if a person's dog that is labeled as a service dog is misbehaving, they've pottied on the floor, they're wandering around, and the handler is not immediately correcting that behavior,
Mhm.
they are legally allowed to ask them to leave the establishment. They absolutely can.
Mhm.
And it is important as a first line of defense, one, label on your door that service dogs are allowed, but pet dogs are not allowed. That's your first line of defense right there. Second, ask the two questions. Ask, is that a service dog? And what task is it trained to mitigate your disability? Those are important. And when somebody becomes combative or they're not sure, usually you can tell right there, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be able to let you in here. Now, it doesn't matter if a dog is vested, and that for the same reason that there's no certifications or registrations, because somebody that is disabled may not be able to pay for, travel to, or otherwise obtain these items that somebody's going to say are required because of their disability. Some of our equipment, say for a mobility dog, those can be $500.
Mm.
They can take a year or longer to be made because they are custom to your dog.
Mm.
This is not something that can just be purchased on a whim, you know.
Mm.
Our dogs are growing as they're learning. It's just not going to be possible for everybody. If you're
Mm.
gonna, you don't even have to use a trainer. You can
Mhm.
owner train on your own for the same reason. If you can't travel to a trainer or there's no trainer in your area, you can owner train on your own as long as your dog is controllable in all public places, which is why we do the temperament test to make sure. And they have a task specifically for your disability. Now, that's not comfort, but that is being able to alert you or help you with your mobility, something that isn't just for your feelings. It's for that specific disability. But even an emotional support animal, you do have to be disabled for.
Mm.
Wow, that's not something that I realized. And we have another question in the chat.
Yeah.
It's from Julie. That her question is, have you had service dogs with students with disabilities on a college campus? And if so, what challenges have been encountered? And maybe if you've not had experience in like, folks with disabilities in like a college setting, but just kind of, kind of like is there might be a parallel experience, I guess, that just yeah, but do you have you had experience with dogs with students with disabilities in any way or and if they had their or like if the dog lived on campus with them and what challenges might be or you could probably say you could probably give us some barriers that a student might face in college with a service dog and so how if anybody is and what challenges might be encountered that's the question.
So it hasn't been college campus, but high school and lower. The first thing is educating the faculty, making sure that they understand what that person's rights are and what the school's rights are as well, because this is all, everybody working together. The dog needs to be following the rules. But the biggest thing there after that is the other students.
Mm.
It can be quite difficult to manage other kids' behavior when you're a kid
Mhm.
yourself,
Yeah.
or you have that just social barrier. That's probably the biggest one right there. And that's advocating for yourself and dealing with that confrontation, which is where most handlers are going to struggle because it's just the confrontation constantly to keep
Mm.
our own dog, which may be life-saving, in their working zone without somebody else distracting them, without knowing that they are even looking at the service dog and staring at them. Dogs can tell your facial expressions. You're not
Hmm.
supposed to look at them, but people don't know that either. They're supposed to just be treated as invisible. So it's educating those students around. And if the staff was able to do so, which can be, I'm sure, much more difficult at a college level there, then that would be extremely helpful to just have a flyer or something passed out so that people know, but that also singles that person out potentially. So it really is give and take.
Okay. No, thank you so much for sharing your experience. What questions are businesses legally allowed and not to are not allowed to ask service dog handlers?
So they are allowed to ask two questions. Is it a
Okay.
service dog? And what task is the service dog trained to do? They're not allowed to ask you for any paperwork. Because there's no registration or certification. There's no little ID or anything like that. And they're not allowed to make you have the dog perform those tasks in front of them. That can be quite demeaning. That's not something that we do, and it's not something that we're always able to get our dog to do either. So those are the two questions that they're allowed to ask.
So what are some common misconceptions you might encounter, or a service dog handler might encounter from the public or businesses? Just sort of like, um, I guess, you've spoken that people have stopped you, and, so if we had to do the etiquette, what would be proper etiquette when you see a service dog? Is it they're invisible and you just go about your business? Is that what I understand? Or
Yeah,
okay,
you treat them
okay,
just like it's a regular person, like they have a wheelchair or they
okay,
have an insulin pump on.
okay,
It's just a medical device. So we don't
okay,
want to stare at it. We don't want to ask to use
yeah.
it or pet it. That's not what it's there for. It just is supposed to be invisible, and you only address the handler.
That is really, I mean, that's powerful right there, because I have been a violator of that etiquette, and I felt horrible. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to ask how this dog helps you, because I get excited when I see people with health differences, and
Yeah.
and three of my four family members could stand to benefit from a service dog. So sometimes I get a little zealous there, but um so back to the ADA, what are the most important things that you feel people should understand about the laws and service dogs, ADA laws specifically?
That dogs aren't required to be vested.
Okay.
That is also a HIPAA violation. It alerts the general public of your private medical information. That's not something that's required. Also, it could be discrimination if that person's not able to obtain it. That's a big one right
Mm,
there. People expect them to be vested, or it's not a real service dog, which isn't
mm,
true.
mm,
It is also important for businesses to know that they can ask those two questions and that they should ask those two questions to protect the rest of us that are real service dog handlers from those that could be faking a service dog, which is illegal. They should not be doing that. It puts all of us at risk, and it puts that general public at risk if the dog is not controllable, and it
mm,
puts everybody there at risk. Uh, and if they answer the two questions appropriately and the dog is misbehaving, even if it's a real service dog and they're misbehaving, they are allowed to ask them to leave. That is completely legal, and we want you to do that. As handlers, we want that. We want to be protected. We want to be seen. We want to be advocated for. We don't just want to have to be fighting on our own all the time.
Education seems to be a big part of your mission. How do you advocate for better understanding of service dogs in the community? So, like, how might you work with businesses or the public to improve ADA compliance or to educate public business of kind of the etiquette? How do you handle? Because you do assert a lot of education, but uh, you know. But just could you give us a little bit the ins and the outs of how you enlighten people with your knowledge?
Or we invite people to join our service dog handler support group, just general members of the public. You don't have to be a service dog handler yourself. We would welcome you to come so that we can answer all of your questions as real live handlers, all sitting there willing to participate. I also will hold lectures for those that are interested, just for, again, the general public, so we can just spread awareness for the education. Any business that is interested for free will come and will educate your staff and yourself so that you guys are protected as well. Because this is a whole community partnership. Without everybody working together, we're going to get nowhere.
Wow.
So that right there that's going to be it. And I'll meet with people one-on-one as well. If they're interested in getting their own dog, it's free to just talk to me, to go have a cup of coffee and we just talk about it, or talk about how they can support those in the community that they don't even know, and how they can help them gain access to places or advocate for them or for their family member and so on.
Have you seen attitudes towards service dogs change over time? With all of your experience.
Yes, there is a little bit of a one or the other towards them.
Mm.
So there is more education now because they're more prevalent with the younger generations.
Gotcha.
And this is,
Um,
I think, why we have more issues with adults that are breaking that etiquette more than anything else because they just
mm,
weren't prevalent back
Gotcha.
when they were growing up. It's not something you saw all the time. So there is a little bit of a stigma behind who is supposed to have a service dog, what maybe a fake service dog looks like or
Mm,
a real service dog looks like. And a lot of that is changing now because service dogs are more prevalent. It is an option over medication sometimes, or even a cane because a dog is allowed to show you to or help you counterbalance instead of that cane. That can really change somebody's life and make them feel a little bit more independent.
mm. Can you share an experience, like a moment when education made a real difference for a handler or a business? I don't know. Sometimes you have those moments, those like, wow. And if you don't, that's cool. No worries. And
And
I'm
it's really the
sorry.
things that they don't know where they feel like they have to have a vest on their dog.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh my goodness, I don't have to do that. Oh, that makes me feel so good because I don't want people to know that I have this
Wow.
disability."
Wow.
Or I've met with first responders and they may say, they have said, uh, it would be great if your dog was vested all the time so we know what your disability is. And we've had
Mm.
to explain to them why that's not possible. The dog is a living being, they're not a robot. So little things, just little things give
Gotcha.
empowerment to the service dog community and give education to those that are helping disabled community and even alongside the businesses where if they know that they're allowed to remove people with
Mhm.
fake service dogs, that gives them a lot of power. A lot of people in businesses, they don't know that they can remove them and they feel completely trapped. And that's not fair for the business owner either.
Got you. Um, so looking back on your journey, what has been, and this again, I feel like what has been one of the most rewarding part of this work for you? Like what's sort of the thing that really hits home for you? I'm hearing education and I'm hearing advocacy and I'm hearing creating a community, but that's just what I heard from what you said. But um, would you mind sharing with us if you can think of something?
I really love that it saves a dog's life and it saves a person's life both. It completely changes that dog's life because most of the time, if I find a dog for somebody, they're looking to rehome that dog. 80% of dogs don't stay in their original home, and it's perfectly okay. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but we're able to get that dog and get it to a 24/7 with their person working job, and it saves that person from thinking of suicide, of feeling hopeless, of just complete loss. They no longer have to feel that, and they have a best friend with them all the time, somebody that relies on them to wake up every day, somebody that can bring something to them, and they don't feel bad about it. It's a complete joy. They always have a smile on their face to do it. They want to please you, they want to work for you. And because they love it so much, they just build that relationship with their handler even more so. I mean, that's really it right there. It saves both of their lives.
Gotcha. No, that is very beautiful, and poignant. Um, so what would you wish more people understood about living with a service dog?
But they aren't robots. They do have their own lives and they
Okay.
do have to have an outlet and experience joy. And
Okay.
sometimes they're going to misbehave and it's up to us to correct that behavior. So really, they're not just robots that work for us 24/7. They're not enslaved to us. They still live a wonderful life.
See, so Okay, what if you have someone in a distant part of Oklahoma call you and ask about, resources in their area? How might you assist them? Because I know you told me that, anyone can call you and I mean, it's just you. And what might your response be to, to that person calling from a distant place? So say like, I don't know, Guyman. That's really far, but I'm just anyway. What
I would refer them to something called Vol-Hard temperament testing.
okay.
It's called a puppy aptitude test, I think, actually. But that's a pretty basic idea of what a temperament test is going to look like. And they can have a friend that's never met the dog before or a distant relative come and meet the dog in a public place and just run through some of those test items, real simple, and score where the dog is at. It gives you a little chart on there, very basic. And you want the dog to be pretty neutral, so around in the threes is good on that specific test right there. That would probably be what I would refer them to so that they're able to do it on their own. If I'm not able to travel to them and help them in some way, I still want to be able to give them the know-how and the ability to do it on their own. That's going to be the first thing right there because 30% of dogs are going to have the temperament
Mm. Oh, wow.
and
So
well,
30,
one in
30,
five of
oh,
those dogs is going to match with your specific disability
wow.
and make it all the way through training. So that's only 6% of dogs approximately that's going to be able
Wow.
to do this. That is very important. And we don't just look at how that dog can benefit that person's disability. Okay, well, what about their lifestyle? Is that dog going to fit in with their kids? Are they travelers? What do they do for a living? Is a dog going to be able to come with them to work? Because even though a dog may be allowed to say all places, I say that in quotations because it's not quite true, but they may be allowed to all places. It doesn't mean it's safe for them to be in all of these environments. And you have to, just like a child going to, say, an open floor concert, just because they can go doesn't always mean that it's appropriate for them to go to that specific event or that specific work site.
Mm.
Uh, but I'm going to try my best to talk them through being able to do it. And that person has to really have the willpower and determination to look things up on their own and work with their specific dog and to not give up and to recognize if it is time to give up because not all dogs can handle that intensive training that this takes.
So uh what are some like resources for someone who is personally training doing it on their own, handler trained? You had mentioned, was it Val or Fall Hard? Is it VAL or FALL hard?
VOLHARD,
Oh wow.
puppy aptitude test.
Okay, aptitude
You
test.
just if you just give it a Google, it should pop up that chart for you and it will give you the score sheet
Hmm.
and the steps that go along with it so that you can find the right dog. Uh, you can temperament test as early as 7 weeks old. And between that time and 8 months old, they are a little bit more fluid. So that means if you don't take them anywhere, they're going to become significantly more reserved without all that exposure. If
Gotcha.
you overexpose them, they'll be able to become overconfident. You can never change a shy child all the way to an extroverted child.
Yeah,
So you only get a
yeah.
little bit of wiggle room on where they are, but within that time frame, it is a little bit more fluid. But after 8 months old, it's solid. That's what the dog is. You can't change it, and you move into behavioral modification. They're not going to be well suited. So this is why when I'll look for a dog, I want them to be over 8 months old, sometimes even older, 2 years old, so I can do X-rays on the dog to see if
Mm.
they're capable of doing the mobility safely.
Oh.
But it's hard to say what resources.
I mean,
Um,
are like okay, so I we know about the aptitude test, the Volhard
mhm.
aptitude test for temperament. What does that give you like next steps based on your dog's results? Does it generate like a report? Like where
No,
would someone go to figure out how to be like, so say I have a dog and they passed the temperament test, and I'm doing it on my own. Is there like kind of just a repository of basic service dog training? I honestly I don't know. There might not be, but what might those next steps be? Say if the dog is in that 6%, and how would you recommend just avenues for people to, because I have no idea how to train a dog, like seriously.
so if I run you through it here, because all of us trainers are going to be a little bit different. So after the temperament testing, you're going to want to look for specific cues for drive the dog is going to have. So if you're going to secrete hormones in your sweat, in your armpits and your groin only. Those are the only two places that hormones will secrete for you. You want to see if your dog is able to scent for that. If you have a heart condition that's going to cause your heart to race or to skip a little bit, then maybe scent detection is going to be best. And you want to look for a dog that is really interested in something smelly, not a food, but I'll take like a duck scent from a hunting dog and I'll put it in a can and I'll toss it to the side. Does the dog want to chase after it? How determined is it? Or if you want a dog to pick something up for you, can it fetch for you? Uh, if a dog is for mobility, are they particularly energetic or are they a little bit more stable? So that's where you want to look at very next for your specific disability to make sure that it matches. And then after that, basic training. Wherever that you can get basic training at, that may be something online, that may be a workbook. I do send a workbook to people for free for them to go through that gives you a step by step for just some basic training.
Okay.
And then public access, which it's kind of like advanced training. What you're going to do when you train a dog is change everywhere and everything. You have distance, distraction, duration, and environment. So if they can sit and lay down quietly for 30 minutes at home, they could do that out in the backyard, the front yard, a friend's house, at a store, and so on. So that's your public access training. And then somebody may start a little bit before now, but typically they want to add it in last because it can be a lot. But your task training and task training is completely individual. So if you want deep pressure therapy, whenever you feel quite anxious, you call your dog over to you and make them lay how they're supposed to. And they're going to learn, oh, whenever she breathes like this, whenever she shakes her hands, whenever she smells a certain way, whenever she gets sweaty, I'm supposed to do this. Every single time that she does this, I'm supposed to do this. That's what she has me do. And they'll catch it up to 20 minutes early and make you stop and lay down and get that grounding technique underway. But that can look completely different for everybody with their specific needs. But something like that.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. So this is kind of a personal question. So how do you take care of yourself and your dog while doing all of this demanding work? You're doing a lot. Um,
Barely. It feels like barely.
mm,
The ADHD definitely helps. I will
mm,
say that. And my husband is extremely helpful. He keeps my life in one piece and keeps things organized. If it wasn't for him, I don't know.
I feel
But
you there.
I want to help so much that I will stretch myself too thin sometimes.
Mm,
And I will break down. And that's totally possible for anybody. This isn't something that just anybody can do. This is 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. I am on call for somebody,
wow.
essentially. It's constant. And then all of my regular training, my boarding, my daycare pays for being able to do my love and life, my service dogs.
Would you mind explaining about, we've heard about, quite a bit about Primal K9s, but would you mind telling us about Primal People?
Primal people is what I'll go and educate people through. All
Okay.
three services hand out pamphlets with
Okay.
information in there that goes over some of the ADA law. Come and meet with businesses that have had somebody have an access issue there to make sure that everybody is educated, holding lectures, traveling. All of that is under that side there. All of it is free resources.
Okay.
Anybody
So,
that wants to meet with me at all.
okay. I mean, would you be open to say like I'm a business and God knows well, and I'm just in a far away from Bartlesville. Um, and I'm sorry. I apologize. My brain is kind of buffering right now. Would you mind reminding me what I was saying? I was
Oh,
just
meeting with a business that
Oh
may be
yeah, okay,
further
okay.
away.
Okay, so would you be open to doing like Zoom? It sounds to me that sounds like consulting. Would you be open if a business contacted you or an individual contacted you, to have like some type of virtual conversation with them? Um,
Absolutely.
or like educate a business's staff or educate like right now, what you're doing for us. But kind of, but like if someone says, oh my gosh, we had issues and my staff needs education, or you have a group of individuals or an individual. I mean, I know it wouldn't, but just as part of the education component, that's good to know that you'd be, available to, I mean, because, I can't, it's really hard for me to get to Oklahoma City or wherever,
Hmm.
living just in this part of the state. Um, but if there's one message you hope that people take away about service dogs and disability, what what do you think it would be? Or just like a main idea. Just what would you hope that um, folks would take away from your education? Like, um,
One thing, and I feel like it's the golden rule.
mhm,
If they were to put themselves in our shoes and think about the experiences that we may be having, they may see us a little bit differently.
mhm,
Uh, we have noticed that male handlers are treated with more respect and are often seen as like they're always military. If you're in the military and you have a service dog, it must be for PTSD. It can't be for anything else. If you're a man and you have a service dog, it can't be for anything else. Well, that
mhm,
golden rule, nobody wants to be assumed about or to be made feel that way. As a woman, I get questioned a little bit more if my service dog is fake or if I really need it or if
mhm.
there's something wrong with me or if I'm training it for somebody else because I look fine. Just that golden rule. How would you feel if somebody asked you something like that? It's just not kind. And just think about those things before interacting with us as handlers, not even our dogs, but just us as people.
Wow. Um, uh, you know, um, Thank you so much. I mean, we're right about at time. I think, that's pretty much, the questions that kind of the Q&A that I had, But would anyone else like the opportunity to, turn their camera on and ask a question, or you don't have to have your camera on, just ask a question or drop it in the chat. Um, uh, Now would be the time. Because I kind of asked some questions, just sort of, just the ones that I had, but um, I'm we're just really blessed that you were able to come and talk with us tonight and share your knowledge. How can your contact information is on your website? Is that like
Yes.
okay? Because I tend to send. Would you be all right if I mean, they can find you on the internet, but I was going to email if you'd be comfortable, I was going to send out your website so people can, get in touch with you if they need.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
Okay.
completely open to it.
Okay.
My personal phone number is listed, so
Okay.
you
Okay.
you call and I'll
Cool.
answer. It's me.
Cool. Yeah, that's good to know, But so thank you so much.
Well,
And
thank you for having me. I'm excited to
no, no,
excited to
it
do
was so
this.
fun. This was great. Um, so next month. we are having Circle of Care on February the 10th. And that's an organization that's dedicated to providing services to children and youth and families to provide just what they need for just all the areas of assisting foster families. And they do a lot of things, but I'm excited to learn about that. I guess I'm always excited to learn more.
Yes.
And so when you said education, you had the, anyway. Um,
Learning is forever, it's lifelong.
yeah, yeah. Would anybody else like to say anything? Because I'm, oh, okay. So, there's some, okay, here's some Julie says, thank you so much. Great information. And thank you so much for a great presentation. I learned a lot to take to my people too. So I think that stands as like, wow, the fact that, Leah, you learned information that you can share with your folks back home is the goal of this. And that's
Yes.
huge. So awesome. Yes. So um thank you so much. And I can keep saying thank you 20 million times, but I can't, because I know you got a lot on your plate and you made time for us, and that speaks volumes
Oh,
about.
this is really important to do. I really want to share this as much as possible. Invite me to anything that you'd like. I'd love to make the time to come to it if possible.
Okay, fantastic. I'm gonna thank you so much for coming to Toolbox Tuesday.